Welcome to the Greenleaf Mayor Series. Today we're very excited. We have Brandon Hembree with us today, who is the mayor of Sugar Hill, Georgia. So thank you for being here today. Appreciate it.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, one thing we look at people's involvement in kind of, it's maybe considered local politics, but in mayoral races and across the country, it's really only like 25 or 30% of the people that show up and actually vote in their own local election.
Yeah. It's less in Georgia, actually. It's probably around 10% that show up to vote in a local election. So.
Yeah, I was looking. I saw like City of Atlanta was just over like 20% as the biggest in the state. But do you know what it was in your city when you ran through it? Or
I think this past election it was around 12%.
12.
Yeah.
So how do you think we get more people interested in voting in the local elections, and how important those are compared to state or federal?
Yeah, I think it's just it's education, right? I think most people are familiar with state and federal races. That's what they're taught about in school, and that's what they're familiar with. And so they grow up without a lot of knowledge about the impact that their local officials have. And as a local elected official, I would make the argument to them that the local matters the most.
Yeah, I think the local mayors, are also going to then control most of your city's like development programs that are going to happen, and in Georgia specifically, in a lot of the northern cities north of Atlanta, we have a lot of these small towns that have been like dramatically revitalized and stuff added to them.
That's right.
But that all comes from the city council and the development authority of that city.
It does.
That you're essentially voting for what you want to see happen.
Absolutely, that's right. They're answerable to the residents of that community.
Yeah. So, in your city, you guys have done a tremendous job. So tell us about that journey of like building out the bowl, which in all the development around it, and adding the parking to the downtown, and really seeing it grow.
Yeah, we've had a short history of development. So prior to 10 years ago, if you had visited our downtown area, you wouldn't have seen much. And so we've had a dramatic change over the last decade. And it's transformed very, very quickly. And it all started with community input probably 20 years or so ago, before my time serving as an elected official. But the city did a survey of residents and asked them, the top 10 things that they would like to see in their city, in their community. And the number one thing that people responded about was a desire to have a downtown, a place where the community could gather. And so 10 years ago, we started working on that as a community. And we've come pretty far in a short period of time.
Yeah. So did the city basically buy the land to start with, or was it a partnership with private owners to get it started?
That was how, property purchasing was an initial first step. And if you talk to any city that's undergone recent development, they'll tell you that it's important to put a stake in the ground. And that means that you have to purchase the property. If you do so, then you're able to control the destiny of your downtown area. And so, yes, we have strategically, over the last 10 plus years, purchased pieces of property in our downtown so that we can control our own destiny.
Yeah, well, that certainly makes it easier to do if you own it.
It does,
right?
Absolutely.
To do that though, you've got to either raise the money, issue bonds, or
yes, raising money is the primary way that a city would make a property purchase.
Yeah, so y'all haven't added sales tax and stuff. It's all through property tax that you're raising, or
correct. We have, as a city, and each city's different, each county's different in how they're structured. Thankfully, in Gwinnett County, we've had a good number of years of a SPLOST program, and that is the 1 penny sales tax that the county collects and distributes to the cities based on population. Those funds can go towards new infrastructure like parks and sidewalks and roads. Yeah. And so that enables us to invest in the infrastructure necessary to grow in a city.
And how does that work? present a plan to Gwinnett County and they provide you with the funding, or they
Yes.
approve it kind of thing, or they?
Before the renewal of each SPLOST. So SPLOSTs are allowed for a limited period of time before they have to go back to the public for approval on the ballot. Typically, a year before a SPLOST is put on the ballot, a committee actually meets at the county level. The committee is appointed with residents, and they come up with a project list that the SPLOST funds can go towards. And so we always participate in that process and have a list of infrastructure needs that we have for Sugar Hill.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And next year, 2027, happens to be the year before the SPLOST renewal in 2028. And so the county will go through a process with all of the cities next year to develop that project list.
I guess it's got to be pretty good for Gwinnett County as a whole, because Gwinnett County has grown so much.
Yes.
Sales tax revenue's significantly higher than it was 10 years ago, just with all the
Correct.
population growth.
That's right. And we have a lot of in-county visitors. And so anecdotally, probably 60 to 70% of the SPLOST funds that are raised from people that come into the county and shop at the Mall of Georgia or other places in our county.
Do they actually track that and tell you, or do they kind of just have general idea of what it
That's
is?
anecdotally. I've never really seen an exact figure on
Yeah.
that. Yeah, point of sale data is kind of hard to get.
Yeah, yeah. So you have all the, like the big projects, like the bowl and stuff. Was that through SPLOST, or was that
Some
through
of
its own
the
stuff?
some of the bowl was funded through SPLOST. If you go through Sugar Hill currently, you'll notice that we are in the middle of construction for a pedestrian bridge up over Georgia Highway 20. Some of that was funded through SPLOST, the rest through federal funds.
Yes. So when you talk to your residents, are you doing surveys and asking them, like, hey, as we go through these projects, what's still most impactful on an annual 10-year kind of planning basis? Or
So we recently went through, every 10 years or so, we're required by the Atlanta Regional Commission to go through a comprehensive planning process, and we just recently did that as a community. And it was called Envision 2030. And so we really looked out ahead, and we asked residents to provide us with input on what they would like our community to look like in 2030. And so it is through comprehensive plan updates and other activities that we kind of gather the data that we need to plan the projects that we want to do in the future.
and how are you bringing other businesses to the city as well, and saying, like, hey, we're going to build this.
Yeah.
You all want to be here and
So
open business here? Like, how do you attract them?
that's such a great question, right? And the vision that you said is what you use to attract businesses to your community. You want to show them that the investment that they're going to make is going to pay off for them in the future. And that is one of the reasons why we do plans, because we want them to see that we have something on paper that's concrete that they can plan for and invest towards. And so we share that. We make that publicly available. And when businesses come to us with an interest in locating in our community, even though we don't give incentives, that is something that we show them as an incentive for investing in our community.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. How much do you think of your role as, like, you got to sell people on coming, or is it like, hey, you just build a product that's really good and they'll naturally come?
I think it's a combination of both. You have to show them what the community will give to them, but you also have to let them know that you're comfortable with what they're going to be bringing to the community itself. Yeah.
So when you started, you started working in an HOA.
Yes.
And you were like, hey, I like this, and I'm going to do more.
Well,
it led to mayor. You're like, okay, this is great.
Looking back on the experience on the homeowners association, it's probably the worst area of public service that you can be involved in, because everybody in that neighborhood knows where you live, and it's hard to escape. the higher you go, it's a little bit easier to escape. You know,
Yeah.
the city, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. But one of the things that I just learned and that I fell in love with at the HOA level was the community engagement piece, which I think is so important at the city level. And if you think about it, like within a neighborhood, it's literally going door to door. I mean, you're seeing your neighbors each and every day. And so the community engagement piece of it was really fun, but it was also very, very important.
Yeah. And, you know, how big is Sugar Hill? So how many?
So we are, right now, we're probably around 30,000 residents. And so we were the fourth largest city in Gwinnett County. Now that the city of Mulberry has been created, we're now the fifth largest.
Who are you going to take over next?
You know, I think it's more about who might overtake us. Beaufort and Sewanee are pretty close. It's interesting, but a lot of the cities are very, very similar in population size in Gwinnett County.
So Sugar Hill, like the Development Authority. So the Development Authority is one buying all the land and.
Not the Development Authority, so just the city has
just the city
been
directly
buying the land. The Downtown Development Authority is the only entity legally that can enter into an agreement with a developer. And so typically we'll do an MOU with the DDA when there's a developer that's interested in a piece of property.
And did you work in that segment too, or did you?
I did. I served my first service after serving on the HOA was on the Downtown Development Authority. I cannot remember what year I was appointed, but I served there for maybe 3 or 4 years until I ran for city council. And then for a short period of time, I continued to serve as the liaison for the city with the Downtown Development Authority.
Well, they've done a tremendous job building everything up down there.
They have, you know, absolutely.
It's impressive. What else is the city going to try and buy? Are they working on other projects to?
I think we don't really have any properties on target to purchase. We have some properties that we own currently that I think are ripe for projects. I'll give you one example. We are currently talking about a new public library in Sugar Hill, and would obviously prefer for that to be in our downtown area. And so we are waiting on the county's most recent master plan to understand the square footage needs for a library. And then once we have that, we'll be able to figure out the properties that we own, which would be a better fit for a public library.
I think it's unique. I mean, you have the Chattahoochee River that kind of borders your city, but then there's a bunch of federal land tied to that because, you know, it's they said national.
It is.
River.
I think that's one of our best assets, actually, that we don't own. But our entire western border is the Chattahoochee River and the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Service area, which is under the National Park Service.
But the city owns a little bit of land that touches the river.
We do. We have about 140 acres that touch the National Park Service property.
And what any plans for that one? Because that's a
Yeah.
Awesome location, right by the river, right by all the national park land.
We call it our Riverlands area, and similar to the Downtown Development Authority, we have created a development authority that we call the Riverlands Authority, and they have responsibility for those properties along the river. They are currently constructing hiking trails on the southern portion of the property, and are working with a mountain biking association called SORBA to construct a mountain biking course.
So you think it'll remain all kind of, I mean, because there's hiking trails and everything through the national rec area too. And
we purchased a majority of the property from the Trust for Public Land about 10 years ago, and as part of the purchase, we had to agree to only be able to develop 1/3 of the property, which is the commercial fronting property that's along Cumming Highway. Makes the most sense to be developed. And to be honest with you, in the past it was already developed. Now it's empty land. Yeah, it is our desire for it to be passive in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, we look at some of the cities closer into Atlanta, there's like the Big Creek Greenway. That's a
Yes.
huge mixed-use trail that people love, and it's super active all the time.
Yeah.
Is there a way to connect that trail like through the golf course and into downtown, or is all that?
That is the long-term goal, and you may be familiar with the fact that we do have a Sugar Hill Greenway that we started construction on around the time that I started as the mayor. We've done 8 miles of it, and we're doing a phased approach, and so over time we'll complete the loop around the city. But one of the next phases would be connecting to the plans that the Chattahoochee River National Recreation has for their property as well.
Yeah. Are they planning to do other stuff in their
Yes,
wooded areas?
they are. So they have 3 units in Sugar Hill. They have Bowman's Island, Orr's Ferry, and Settles Bridge. There's never been any programming at the Orr's Ferry unit, and so at the end of last year, they did public input for a new park in the Orr's Ferry unit. That would be passive in nature, mostly educational facilities for local schools, and we're all in on that, and so we're supporting that and hope that they can begin to move forward with
because the rest of the way further south along the Chattahoochee, there's just a huge amount of parks and boat access.
Yeah,
and
Settles
everything.
Bridge is one example, and that is actually the closest boat access. And so, if you want to get up to Beaufort Dam, you have to put in at Settles Bridge, and you have to either kayak or boat up, and you can't get very far in a boat because of the shoals. But we would love at least a kayak input near our community.
Yeah, that'd be excellent.
It would be excellent.
Yeah, very cool. So, you think about like highways and roads stuff too, that just like fly fishing. You actually get out there.
I'm actually a fly fisher, so I learned how to do it in high school. I have loved it my entire life, and I get out and fly fish quite a bit in the Orr's Ferry unit around Crayfish Creek.
Yeah. I saw some of the like just the restoration projects and people out there. It's it's unique. You've got a very like vibrant downtown, but then not that far from it, you have a huge national rec area.
Yeah, and it feels like you're
biggest river in Georgia.
Feels like you're in the North Georgia mountains, like when you're on that property.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of the residents use it and realize it's there? Or?
No, I mean that's an interesting question, and it's an interesting thought that I've had over the years. I don't think most of our residents are aware of the fact that we have a national park in our
like bordering the whole west side of the city, right?
And a lot of that has to do with access, and there's just never been good access provided by the National Park Service, and never been good access provided by the city, and I hope that we can change that.
Yeah, most of it you got to like go through someone's yard to then get into it, basically, right?
Yeah,
because kind of neighborhoods that lead up to
and
it.
There's very few formal trails. There's a lot of social and wildlife trails that people use, but again, people just aren't very aware of what's there.
Yeah, because there's no. I mean, there might not be, but I don't think there's any parking to access it anywhere. Is there?
Unless you access some of the property from Beaufort Dam, but most people aren't. Most people are looking for convenience.
Yeah.
So this weekend, I love history, and there's a lady that wrote a book about Island Ford Baptist Church, which is an 1830s church that's still up near Beaufort Dam, and
in the original location, it's still there.
Yes, in the original location. It's not the original church. It's I think the third church that they've built. But there's an amazing hiking trail that's not on any formal trail list that goes from the church all the way down to the Chattahoochee River. And once you get down there, you can see Bowman's Island. So Bowman's Island is literally an island in the middle of the Chattahoochee River, and it was where in the 1830s they set up a ferry crossing, because at the lower part of Bowman's Island, the shoals are there and the water it kind of slows down in that area. And it has been my dream to try to get on that island. There's no bridge over to it, and it's impossible to take a boat up because the shoals are too shallow. So my friend and I, we took a kayak from Buford Dam down to Bowman's Island, trying to find like a level area that we could get up onto the island, and we found nothing. And then we had to kayak all the way back upstream. It was horrible. I thought I was like, Jim, I'm never doing this again.
Going downstream is what trying to paddle back upstream.
We got down there like 5 minutes, and then it takes like 5 hours to get back to get back upstream.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've never even put in from Buford Dam.
I want to get on that island because it was owned by the Bowman family, and they had the ferry crossing there. But farmers used to like farm corn and stuff on the island, and I want to get on the island and just see if there's.
But there's nothing on it at all, or like
there could be like some old sites
like
of stuff, but I just don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I think only the National Park Service probably has been on it recently. Yeah. And there's some pebble beaches, but the banks are just too steep and you can't climb up them. But when you get on the island, you can hear, there's birds and you can hear. Yeah. Someone said it's kind of like a bird sanctuary too, over there.
That sounds pretty cool.
I want to.
It sounds like a next adventure. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've got to figure out a way to get over there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's next for the city?
Oh my goodness! So, this past year we budgeted for 2 new parks, and so our community's becoming younger, and we found that the younger residents really like, parks, recreation, and green space, and so we've made a choice to invest in that, and so we have in the plans a new park in our downtown area called Champion Tree Park, and there's an old 190-year-old southern red oak on the property, and so we want to preserve that and preserve it as green space. And then taking direction from some other cities, we're going to do an inclusive park for children and parents, for parents that have children with special needs, and we're working on those. We'll probably begin some sort of construction on those in the next year or so.
All right, great. So kind of going back to the very beginning here, it sounds like Sugar Hill's done a great job over the past couple of years growing and building what the community wants to see. What do you think gets people engaged to vote more than 10 or 15% up to 30% or 40%? How do we get that ahead?
So this last election, I think I mentioned earlier to you, we had about 12% turnout, which is higher than we've ever had in the past. I think in previous elections, sometimes we're around 5 to 8%, which is just abysmally low voter turnout. But I think what it takes is engagement with the community and making them aware of the fact that we exist as elected officials and as a city, and that we play an important role in the future of the community, but also helping them understand how they can participate in that process. And so over the last several years, we've done lots of community engagement activities, events in our downtown where we bring people together, and that's the whole goal of a downtown in any community in the history of the world, right? It's the place where people gather for commerce and for socializing and entertainment.
Yep.
And so it's just getting the community to come together as a whole, and realizing the role that they play in the community, and the importance of having that feeling of community.
Well, it seems like it's working. If you got a great new downtown, new parks, and you've got a younger population moving in, they're obviously saying they're voting with their dollars, saying,
right.
"Hey, we're going to come here and buy a house here because we want to be part of this community."
Yep, they're investing in our community, and that's a great thing.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming today. We appreciate talking. What you're doing in the city is fantastic, and it really looks like it's doing a great job.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me a chance to highlight our community.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.